Hey guys, Beast here. I'm back with another video. Like the title says, today's video will be a mech guide against Protoss. This is something I've been experimenting pretty often recently, and I had quite good success with it, surprisingly. I expected for the games to be like very one-sided and Protoss would win a lot of them because not many people use mech. But after playing more and more, my win rate was actually probably around 60-70%, maybe even higher. So I want to show you guys my opinion on mech and basically a build order you can do and play mech against Protoss yourself. So I'll be showing you two games, and the first game we have here is against Cougar, and I am the barcode Terran. So the way I like to play mech against Protoss is definitely start off with gas first. You will not be needing any Marines early on, so there's no point to open barracks into gas. I prefer to go gas and then barracks to wall off. You still want to wall off because you don't want to be bothered by adepts early on. And what I usually do, I scout with this probe, make sure that the Protoss expanded and I'm not getting proxied or anything like that. And as soon as the barracks finish and I have enough minerals, I expand right after. So I open with Reaper. The second SC is going to the natural to make the CC. And the goal of this SCV is to just scout what the Protoss player is doing. And to make sure that, like I said, he's expanding, he's not cheesing. So basically I just want to confirm that there's an expand. If there's no expand, I want to go into the main base and check if he has two pylons in the main base, or if it's one pylon, that means that he's proxying. With this Reaper, since I see the expo, I don't go around my base with the Reaper. I go straight across the map because potentially I want to kill some probes or deny some mining if possible. So I check with the SCV, I see both pylons, and because of that I don't need to check for proxies, plus he throws on a Stargate right now. So I kind of confirmed and see what I wanted to see. Behind this, right after Reaper, I made a reactor barracks, or reactor in the barracks, followed up by factory, got second gas after the factory started. And then I will be dropping down a starport, because now you know what I'm playing against, which is the Stargate. So what I want to do is make sure I don't die to oracles or lose too many SCVs. So I'll open with Hellion and a Widowmine. I do this because you don't have quite the gas for two Widowmines at the same time. So I just open Hellion. Meanwhile, with my Reaper, I see that the Adepts are in his base, so I don't feel threatened, you know, that he's going to come and attack me or that I need a super fast Cyclone or anything like that. So I go for the Widowmine first, and I followed up with Cyclone. And from the starport, I'll be making a Viking. I started walling off on the natural, and so far I'm feeling pretty safe. I know what he's doing. My Reaper is in front of his base, so I know that there's no units coming or anything like that, so all is good. Now, one thing I want to mention is, I know some people have asked me in the past, well, if you do this, what if he goes for Pylon Rush? Well, with the initial Reaper and SCV, you see what the Protoss is going for. So if the SCV sees that he expanded, because sometimes they pylon rush after they expand, and you check in with the Reaper and you see no Mothership Core building, then there's no pylon rush, so you don't need to rush out a Cyclone. But if your Reaper scouts the first time it comes to his base and the Mothership Core is already moving across the map, you want to be going for Cyclone first and then delay your starport a bit, just to make sure you actually defend the pylon rush and don't end up dying. Now from here on out, I'll speed things up a bit. I just confirmed here with the Reaper, the Oracle killed it together with the Adept. So from here on out, I kind of just want to be safe against the Stargate, and the most common follow-up for Protoss in the current meta is to just drop down a third Nexus, just like he is. And from here on out, my defense right now is a Cyclone, a Viking, and a Widowmine. You can pretty much defend Oracles with that setup. What I suggest you guys to do is put the Widowmine either in your main or natural mineral line. What I like to do is put the Widowmine somewhere where it's in front of your base, but the Protoss won't really be looking at it. What I mean by that is Protoss right now is focusing on the Oracle, so he's looking where it is going, and he's just trying to avoid going into the Widowmines. Once the Viking chases it away, he kind of clicks, forgets about it, and the Widowmine gets it. After this, you want to be throwing down a third CC. I made another Viking just to be extra safe. Made another Cyclone, another Widowmine, and what I will do is I will use this Widowmine to scout potential third base, and sometimes Protosses only make one Oracle. So if I burrow the Widowmine here, he won't have detection, he's going to have to remake Oracle. But in this case, the Protoss made the second Oracle already. So the Widowmine just ended up confirming that there's a third base, which is all I needed to know in the first place. Now, after throwing down the third CC, I followed up with double factor in the tech labs, making a reactor in my starport, took the double gas on the natural, and slowly but surely I want to be getting my third, getting more factories, getting more armories, and just kind of continuing to expand. I'm doing this guide as sort of not covering the build fully. The reason for that is I want to explain to you guys my process of thinking, and I want to show you 2 replays. There's going to be another game after this one, and you guys can check the full build order yourself. I will link the replays in the description of this video for both games, so you guys can just download them and copy the build perfectly if you need to. Now, I started making siege tanks. When I went with the Widowmine here, I saw that there's 2-3 stalkers. So the most common transition for Protoss out of Stargate is either into Phoenix, which is actually pretty good for you if you go Mech, because Phoenix are pretty bad against Mech. Or they go straight into Blink, which again is not very good against Mech, because as you can see I'm already producing double siege tanks, so whenever he attacks I'll have enough units to defend whatever push he's going for. I'm already ahead in supply, and I didn't really kill any workers or anything like that. This is purely just through macroing and just having more units and more supply because of it. Now he's going to do this kind of push that a lot of Protosses do, which is basically like a Blink Stalker poke. And I have my siege tanks spread out pretty nicely, and the Widowmines to cover, plus some Cyclones. You always want to have at least 3-4 Cyclones early on to make sure you don't die, and for your siege tanks to have kind of something to soak the damage for them. Now he picks up a siege tank here, but he can't really push into my army, because if he blinks, this siege tank will start shooting. This one is already shooting, so that's not going to work out. Meanwhile, I'm using my Hellions to do a run-by, because Hellions are pretty useless for defending. I mean, they do soak up damage, but because I saw his army was on my side of the map, I decided to do a run-by. A little update on my base. I made a missile turret here to prevent any oracles or war prisms. Made a double armory, so I'm getting double upgrades, and I'm making 2 more factories to kind of fully transition and have enough production from this point on. My Vikings are right here, which is where you usually want to place them so they deny any war prisms, because as we all know, no matter what matchup you play, the hardest thing to deal as a mech player is doom drops in your base, whether it's a war prism or a TvT doom drop or anything like that. So feeling pretty safe against war prism. There's a spotter barracks here as well. So from here on out, my goal in this game, I'll speed things through a bit because the build order part of this game is done. I'm getting my 4th, and what you want to do from here on out is continuously expand and just make sure that you know where your opponent is and defend appropriately. So I have a sensor tower right here, so I can see where his army is moving. If he goes to the bottom side, I burrow some Widowmines and reposition the siege tanks. He goes for a little bit of a risky play, but at the same time, this is something you want to do against Mech. Except this game didn't work out because I reacted pretty well. I sniped the War Prism. He blinks in, but because of these 2 supply depots, some stalkers, as you can see, bug out, stay on the low ground. And from here on out, I mean, these stalkers were kind of pretty wasted and didn't really kill much. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, I killed 7 workers with the Hellions doing a run-bys. What I also suggest you guys to do, because in this game the Protoss player had cannons in his middle lines and he was kind of being aggressive, I didn't go for the Widowmine drops, but that is what I initially wanted to do. But after scouting the cannons, I decided to kind of just keep them back and defend, make sure I don't take any damage, because Blink Stalkers is not something you want to build against Mech player. And because he committed to them, my process of thinking, well, as long as I just hold on, I can just push and kind of just kill him. Definitely get drilling claws, because when you do drops, medevac drops with drilling claws into the mineral line, the Protoss will not have time to move the probes before the Wood Mines shoot. So it's actually like not possible. It's not up to Protoss reaction. It's not possible because with the drilling claws, the Wood Mine burrows really quick, and then it shoots off before the probes manage to get away. I'm getting my fourth, establishing everything, and my first push that I want to do with mech usually is around 180, 190 supply. At least 1-1 upgrades. I think actually, oh no, I'm getting the armory, the armor upgrades as well. I still have Vikings here covering for the War Prism. There's no real path for the War Prism to come this way, which you're about to see. He goes in, there's a turret here, and there's another turret here. So this War Prism gets killed off, and this is kind of like my go sign, because I just killed the War Prism, there's no threat around my base. I do leave a couple of siege tanks and a couple of Hellbats on my third, just to defend against like Adept run-bys, or Zella run-bys, or Blink Sock run-bys, or anything like that. And I decide to push with my whole army. Now, the reason my army is so crown heavy and siege tank heavy is because whole game I've been scouting his army, I saw what he's going for, I have full vision of his base, I see double robo, so I don't need to make too many Vikings. You can see with my army I only have 3, just to kind of prevent any War Prism shenanigans. He tries to do counterattack here, which doesn't really work out. And the reason he does this is because he knows he can't face my army. And from here on out, if you look at the supply, the game is pretty much done. Now, I want to show you guys transition behind this is once I get around 180 supply, I make more starports, and instead of getting +3 armor, I get +1 ship weapons going and +3 vehicle weapons. And I transition to starports to slowly transition into the battle cruisers, because that is your late game. Eventually the Protoss will transition into Sky Protoss, and you simply need battle cruisers in order to deal with that. He's trying some run-bys here everywhere in the map, because like I said, he cannot contest my army, so he's trying to do some kind of weird base trade, which just doesn't end up working out. And I end up winning the game. Now, I know what most of you are thinking right now. Yeah, like when Protoss goes ground, that's easy, I can beat that. You know, I don't need a guide on that, right? Because each thing is beat ground units. But what if Protoss goes Sky Protoss from the start of the game? And that's what we'll be covering in the second replay. So let's hop into that. Okay, so we're back in the second game. This game is me playing against Neeb. Yes, real Neeb. I know there's going to be someone in the chat asking that. Yes, it is real Neeb. Yes, it is ANA Neeb. So let's get into the game. This is on Blood Boil. My opener, like I said already, is more or less the same thing. Actually, I go for Reaper Expand here, never mind. Or Marine, sorry. Because I didn't end up going Reaper. Neeb likes to play Pylon Rushes quite often, so I like to open Marine first to kind of deny that. One thing on this map, why you want to get this base as your natural, because of the double gas. A lot of people take this base, which is kind of wrong, as your natural in my opinion. So this is the base you want to get, just because of the double gas. And this game, I decided to go for a little bit different opener, but a very similar playstyle. So I open with Reactor Marines, Widowmine, and a Medevac. So the other game that you guys saw, I went for straight into Reactor Factory for gas first, Widowmine, Hellion, and then into a Cyclone. But this game, I kind of decided to play safe. I have a lot of Marines to defend Oracles, and I will go into really, really fast drop with a Viking follow-up. Well, let's follow the drop. The Oracle won't end up doing anything back in my base. I think it doesn't kill anything. The reason I'm going this path is I'm checking for the third, or, you know, if this would be a third, I want to scout if he has it or not. So I see the third base, which is the scouting information that I need. I know he's going Stargate. I try to do a drop here, which ends up being okay. Not doing too much damage. I think I end up killing like, yeah, one worker. And I see Forge and Twilight. Now, The most popular transition, other than the Blink Stalker we saw last game, is Protoss going into Adept Glaives with +1, which I'm sure everyone that's Terran player knows and played against this. So what you want to do against Protoss is try to deny his scout for as long as you can so he doesn't know you're going mech. So I have a cute little Widow Mine here. Again, it's on a kind of like a random spot where you can pick off air units. And here he goes for the attack. He sees Reactor Factory. And here I target fire the Oracle with the Widow Mine. And he still maybe doesn't know that I'm going for mech. But soon enough, he will. Meanwhile, expanded to my third, all is good. And again, I won't go too much about the build order itself, but how you should deal with SkyToss. So from here on out, I am just macroing up. I have Marines covering here, I have a missile turret here, missile turret here. So slowly I want to limit where the Phoenixes can move and where the War Prisms can come from. He scouts here, confirms that I have a third CC. If I look at my vision, I didn't recheck what he was doing after the initial scout because I knew he would be investing some resources into that. And from here on out, I'm just pumping as many units as I can. He gets some harass here with the Phoenix, which this missile turret was a bit late. Getting the Diablo Armory, getting the 5 factories to get that production really going. And in this game, I don't want to make too many siege tanks because I know that his follow-up is Phoenix and Adepts. So there's no point to make a lot of siege tanks. They're just going to get lifted. Siege tanks are not too great against Adepts because Adepts can just shade. So you will see me kind of stacking up with minerals and gas because I want to start making a lot of Thors. Thors are obviously great against Phoenix. They cannot be lifted. They do extra damage against light units, which Phoenix are. And Adepts are not too good against, Adepts are not really good against Thors either. I go for the Widow Mine drop, which I mentioned in the previous game. Doesn't really get much done. Yeah, I didn't kill anything. I killed a worker with 4 Widow Mines because Neeb is a pretty good player. So here on out, you can see production temp, Hellion Thor, and again, the medevac drop that I did is I want to get scouting with it. That's the most important thing that you're trying to get out of this. And when I went in, this is my vision. So I still see one Stargate, I see a Robo, but I know that he's confirmed that I'm going mech at this point. So he will either go full ground or he will go SkyToss. And this is what you need to scout. This is the most important thing that you need to scout and attack or transition appropriately. So soon I will be scanning the gold base and I will see that he has mass adept, which then I know he committed a lot to ground units, but I don't see any immortals. And because it's only one robo, I know it's not double robo, and kind of when you want to counter mech, you either go double robo for immortals, because one robo is not really too much, of a actual production to deal with siege tanks and Thors. So I'm assuming at this point that he is transitioning to SkyToss. You can see me constantly make reactor Vikings. At this point I have 4 Vikings, I'm making more, and the production is going full into Thors. This is one cool trick you can do, by the way. I burrow 4 Widow Mines and then siege up a tank above it, kind of like, oh yeah, look, free siege tank. He goes for it, gets bopped, he goes for it again, gets bopped again. So that's one trick you can use that's pretty cool. This works against Zerg and works against Protoss pretty well. Now this War Prism, one mistake I made, my Viking should have been here, kind of denying this, but he tanks with Phoenix for the missile turret and then goes in with the War Prism. He gets some damage done with the Adepts, but I managed to clean it up. And meanwhile, he's trying to buy time right now with the War Prism, and he's trying to just kind of get rid of these Adepts slowly but surely, because if you look at his bank, he's fully ready to transition into SkyToss and make nothing but either carriers or templates. Now, it's a lot better as a Protoss to make carriers early on and Tempest later, because Tempest will not really deal with Thor or Viking, while carriers, with some Void Rays and Tempest will. So as we can see, he's moving into full carrier production, He's on 5 base, and yeah, he's just looking to fully transition. He's just making adepts, as you can see, so like I said, for him to buy time and kind of delay me from pushing. But again, if you have really good macro, constantly produce your units, constantly spend your minerals and gas, you will end up being maxed pretty quickly. I got supply blocked here because I'm pretty bad. I'm currently reinforcing my main base with missile turrets because, like I said, you don't want to be harassed by the war prism like this. And at this point, I'm almost maxed out and I'm pushing out. So here is where I scan. I see these many adepts, and like this just confirms what my suspicion was, and that is that he's transitioning to Sky Toss completely, and that is your timing that you want to go for. So a lot of people play mech and they kind of just sit back, defend, and then they push out with a lot of siege tanks. And they're like, well, Sky Toss just beats Terran. Well, if you overcommit to siege tanks and you don't push at the exact moment, yes, Sky Toss will beat siege tanks because siege tanks don't shoot up. But if you transition properly, you have really good timing. If you look at my unit count, I have only 2 siege tanks. And that is because the Protoss did not invest into ground army like Blinkstalker, Immortal, Archon, High Templars, and so on. He invested into Adepts, which again, siege tanks are not good against, and I just made a unit composition that completely counters that with some Cyclones, some Hellbats to tank, Marines that I have from the early game, and then a lot of Thors. So here, I'm pushing out, and he's again trying to delay, trying to buy time, but you know, this army beats this army. As you can see, he is not fully transitioned to carriers, and like I said, this is my timing to go for the attack and to try to do as much damage as I can. I know that if I wait a minute longer, he will have 6, 7, 8, 9 carriers, and this attack won't work. And I would have to transition into battle cruisers, which he might have an edge. But when you play mech and when Protoss is transitioning to Sky Toss, this is your one opportunity to kill the Protoss with the existing army, and then you slowly transition into something else, like I was doing in the previous game, going into battle cruisers. This is where he goes for the attack soon. I transition the Thor to the secondary attack, whatever it's called, Thor's Hammer, to the single target damage that deals extra damage against, you know, big units, not necessarily like Phoenix, but stuff like carriers and Tempest or Voiders that you want to use it on. And it's extremely important for you to target fire the carriers with your Thors and Vikings. A lot of people just kind of A-move and Thors end up shooting the interceptors, and that will not win you the fight. He goes for the attack here, and I want you to pay attention to my Thors. I target fire the Mothership Core, and then I completely ignore Adepts, and I just stutter step and kill the carriers off. Meanwhile, I ran by some Hellions here, kill this base, and if you check at the target fire right now, Mothership Core is dead. I'll move forward, and look at those carriers just falling like flies, super quick. One good thing about mech is the Thors did get buff on armor +1, and that's actually a huge buff against the carrier interceptors because they have very low damage by high attack rate, so any armor upgrades against interceptors are extremely important, so you need to get those. Now, this is usually the point where I would transition to more starports and go into battle cruisers, but this game I felt I did more than enough damage. If you look at the supply, I know I killed 2 bases and I know that I'm ahead in economy, so I made a decision to continuously make Thors, continuously make Vikings, and just kind of kill him with the next attack, because while I'm able to produce my army or reproduce my army once again, he is not able to remake his, so I'll just know I'll win the numbers game. He goes for the counterattack here, which is good decision as like seeing the circumstances that he lost so much, but I was fully prepared, and again, I'm completely ignoring interceptors, target firing the carriers, killing the war prism, and then soon enough I'll speed things up. I'll go for a big attack. Again, I'm expanding the whole time, getting my upgrades, I've actually decided to go into plus air weapons earlier than plus 2 armor, simply because I'm making a lot of Vikings and I need them to deal with carriers. I try to do a run by here, he denies it. He actually does a pretty good job of not losing workers at this point, but soon enough I'll max out and I'll just end up killing him, because like I said, at this point it is just a numbers game. Because I'm close to max, transitioning to starports, and that's it. Let me put it in my point of view. That was it for the mech guide. Like I said, I will leave both of these replays in the description so you guys can download those and copy the build orders completely. I'm trying to make these guides not so much as, okay, build this at this point, build this at this point, because I feel like in StarCraft, that's a game that's very complex. You can't just tell people to build things at a certain time without explaining why they're doing certain things, or at least explaining my process, my thought process behind it. The build order is something that's easy to copy if I just give you replays, but getting the actual opinions behind my decision is something that the replays obviously will not help you with. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will be doing a Mech TvZ guide and then Mech TvT guide as well. These games were very recent, maybe 2-3 days ago, and I just wanted to do a guide on this first because Mech TvP is something that's very rare and I just don't see anyone doing it. So I kind of just wanted to show you guys. Hopefully you test it, play it a little bit and see how you like it. But yeah, that's it for the video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video for more future content. Once again, I am uploading these videos daily, whether it's a gameplay guide or the insane challenge. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.